Hello, everyone. Welcome to ZEN Hustlers. Today, we're super excited to be interviewing Aneesh Chaudhry. Thank you for joining us, Aneesh.
Thank you so much for having me, Jared. Looking forward to it.
Yes, and before we get started, I just want to welcome everybody. It's another day in the world of living under COVID, and things are odd, and it's totally okay that they're odd, and we just have to accept what's happening in the world. I think we are going through a human evolutionary moment in time, and it's really important that we stay grounded, we stay focused, we find time to relax, we indulge ourselves where we find comfort. We take time to journal, write, emote some emotions that might be coming from for us. I've been listening to different types of music and exercising in a different way, I've noticed. And so
Mhm.
I just want to give people the freedom to do that right now because it's a very odd time in our humanity, and we should acknowledge that, and we should give ourselves some space and time to deal with that. We do have resources on zenhustlers.com that help people who are in emotional crisis, people who are seeking motivational inspiration through some of the podcasts and the experts. And then, of course, we have all the Zen and Hustler resources to balance our life. What we say at Zen Hustlers is we're all seeking balance on the edge. And the edge for us as entrepreneurs, founders, and business professionals is that motivation to keep driving and going for our big goals. The challenge is finding that time for balance. Personally, in 2017, as a business owner, I went through a personal challenge and I needed to find more balance in my life. I was out of shape. My mindset was not healthy and unproductive. It was hurting my personal relationships and my spousal relationships and my relationships with my children and to myself. And when I started looking at resources that were helping me, it helped me get out of that hole. And I thought, you know what? As I did more research, I thought other people are dealing with this too, so I'll build this thing. And that's how Zen Hustlers was born in 2017. And so since now it's a website, it's a support group, we're doing interviews. One day we might do live events again. And really it's a support system. And we use a little bit of affiliates to help pay for some of it. But really it's a community driven support system. And I encourage people to go check it out. So thank you for being a part of our community. Today, I'm really excited. I met Aneesh online through an organization called the C-Suite Network. I've been a part of as a CEO. I call myself a owner director. A couple of years ago, I met them at an event, and I was really impressed with their level of resources for CEOs and the C-suite. And I met Aneesh through that network. And as soon as I heard about his background, I knew this is somebody I got to get in touch with. This is somebody that I really respect and what they're doing. And also the fact that he's tackling so many different challenges. He's really embodying a lot of that Zen hustler, the balance and the hustle of the business. So he is a founder, speaker, and a filmmaker and TV producer with Soul Physio Lifestyle. He's also a brain health coach, a corporate wellness consultant, and he's focused now on philanthropy with a nonprofit based on brain and mental health, and also the mind, body, spirit wellness. He's working with autism, with clinics, using Eastern medicine with research studies, and also building a concierge content production company in the health and wellness space. So Aneesh, I know you're doing a lot, so I hope that that was enough. I'd love to hear you also speak to some of the things I mentioned.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the great introduction. As you know,
Sure.
it seems like so many different things, and it definitely is. I mean, that's where the hustler side comes, but where the Zen also comes is knowing that I wouldn't be able to do everything I'm doing if I wasn't able to take care of myself and
Yeah.
ultimately be able to cater to my soul, because it's far beyond just being productive at this point for me. It's really
Yeah.
about embodying a larger mission and being able to tackle a huge problem. And what that problem is, that all the different things that you mentioned that I do, it really comes down to the fact that mental illness is on the rise, obesity is on the rise, chronic disease is on the rise, and all these different things that, there's starting to be more awareness around health, but there's still a disconnect between that level of awareness and being able to create practical tools and tips for general everyday people in order to begin to combat a lot of that chronic illness. And that's where, like, I use the film and production side as a tool to be able to reach a lot of people. I own two clinics in Southern California that we are currently transitioning into a nonprofit structure so we can begin to research children suffering from mental and neurological disorders and primarily autism. And we're using that as a tool and a framework to be able to pioneer cutting edge wellness programs that we plan to market and implement in existing schools. And then the long-term vision for my organization is to actually open up our own schools domestically and overseas.
Awesome. Thank you. And as a parent of two boys, I really respect the work that you're doing, because
Thank you.
seeing and raising two children, you don't get a manual as a parent. And thank God my children don't have any, associated disorders or mental illnesses, but just being a parent and trying to raise children in a conscious way. I follow Dr. Chafali's work about being a conscious parent, where I look at my own self first, like how am I being as a human, because I'm modeling constantly. So kids, even without disorders and without autism, it's very challenging being a parent, especially right now in this moment. It's challenging being a parent. So thank you for that work. That's super important work. And we also homeschool our kids, because we don't have 100% faith in our educational system, even in California, as good as it is. We don't have 100% faith in it, what they're teaching them, and what time value they're getting for being there that much. So thank you for that. It's super important work.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. And I think that it's great that you have that awareness. And Dr. Shafali is a wonderful resource with conscious parenting, and really, really showing parents all around the world that ultimately the the whole future of the child lies so much on how we're able to interact with them, how we're able to care for them, the food we feed them, the general habits and everything that we're able to put together and offer them. Because they, like you use the keyword, they really, really do model after us. And so many parents are unaware of how what may seem mundane to them, like average everyday habits, the kids are picking up on all of that, whether they're around or not around. So I think being able to genuinely take care of ourselves is the best thing we can do, not only for ourselves, but to set that example for our children. So I think that that's a lot of the message that we're doing with the programs in our schools, is not only going in and teaching the kids, but educating the faculty and staff on all these concepts too, because they can't implement what they don't know how to do. And that's the first step, is like showing people that everything you do impacts your own brain. And then everything you do impacts the brain of your child. Then all of a sudden, when you start to think about it from that perspective, it creates a newfound motivation to want to lose weight. It's not just about looking good in a bikini or taking your shirt off and looking good. It's
Yeah.
about like, okay, my actions are actually going to affect not only my brain, but the brain of my child. It's like, wow, all of a sudden I'm going to be more motivated to want to eat a salad and perhaps cut down sugars and start to meditate, and all these kind of different tools that I'm sure you guys cover on more of the Zen side of the community.
Mhm. Yeah, we have this joke with mom, the boy's mom, what she was eating when they were in the womb. We went all the way back to that point, and the type of fitness she was doing. She was doing CrossFit and yoga and meditation while she was pregnant. And we thought, like, even at that, yeah, and we were trying to go back before they were born, and we could see some habits in them with diet and physio and strength training that we think was started when they were in the womb inside mom. So, and her mental state, being pregnant, her, that 9 months of creation of a human, it's really important. So these are all super, and I hope you include the parents in those programs you're mentioning.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
huge. We're
Yeah.
actually working with a couple schools down in Florida, and so much of the initiatives that we're building out are built around taking a threefold approach and providing education just as at high of a level to the kids as with the parents and faculty. Because the faculty has to know how to deal with the kids, and ultimately, you can only spend a set number of hours with the children at school. So then, being able to go home as a parent and model that same level of consistent behavior is really what's going to be able to shape our next generation of leaders to where they're not going to have a lot of the same problems that we have nowadays. And that's really that's really the goal. Because like a lot of those things are kind of getting worse, like I mentioned. But
Yeah.
I do choose to believe there is hope, and that it's a large project to tackle. But I know that there's more than enough tools and resources through media and through like all the things we have at our fingertips today in order to make something like that happen.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the things that I took away from the work with Dr. Shafali is, like, and some of the other courses we've done as parents, we did hand-in-hand parenting, we've done an in-person course, is that, like, my mental state has to be balanced to deal with someone else who's having a traumatic or dramatic emotional state, as a child does. because they're flooded with emotions and they don't know what to do with that. So the more that I can keep my emotional state calm, I can support them in keeping their emotional state calm. When I go off the handle, and I'm a parent, I do that. It's harder for them to keep their emotional state, to move through that emotional moment that they're in. So we'll move off parenting and kids, because I could talk about that stuff all day. I love it.
Absolutely.
So as a busy entrepreneur, how are you keeping balanced, and why do you think it's so important for your work to stay productive, but yet also be in balance for yourself?
So the word balance is something that I've had to learn the hard way in my life. I mean, I started
Mm,
full time as an entrepreneur about a little less than 2 years ago, and I
okay.
opened up my first clinic in April of last year. And I've always years and even through early entrepreneurship that I would work from a place of stress. And I was under the impression that putting pressure on myself and having strict deadlines, staying up till 11 or 12 every night and working was the best way to do it. But it was compromising myself. And I suffered a number of health issues in my early 20s as a result, to where I had no choice but to slow down and kind of reevaluate and reprioritize. And really what I've learned is that, like, how I do it is that I make sure I take at least the first hour, if not the first 2 to 3 hours of the day, and the last hour of the day for myself. Because we talk about being able to
The
create
last
those,
hour of your work day or the last hour of your awake day?
the last hour of the awake day.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that even more than that, but I mean, like, when I say like that time, I mean like you put away your devices, you turn your TV off, and I mean like that kind of time with yourself, not like relaxation. I'm going to binge watch Netflix, because I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people can do. I mean, like, truly sitting with yourself, and like you mentioned, journaling, and truly tapping into that inner state and creating that mind body connection. Because then I think that created a new level of mindfulness throughout the course of the workday. So then that way, when I start to get more stressed, I can then start to use tools such as deep breathing in the moment and mindfulness to be able to calm myself down and not let a lot of those things that kind of used to make me angry and stay angry for hours really just kind of keep the emotions at bay and keep that high level of productivity.
I have two questions based on what you said. One was there an aha moment where this was like, hey man, this is not working? Like, I know for me, I went frozen one day. I couldn't
Mm,
speak, I couldn't move. I knew something was wrong. I went completely catatonic one
wow.
day, and it was I wouldn't call it a breakdown, but I couldn't move. I was in paralysis.
Mm,
We had to move out of our house. I didn't have enough income. My kids didn't know where we were moving. I was freaking out, and it was just overwhelmed. And then, what was your aha moment? And then what was some of the tools you first used to help you get into this? Because it's not intuitive. It's not like we just know it. We got to look for new tools and new ways of being. So what were those two things for you?
So a huge aha moment for me was after my freshman year of college. I was on academic probation and almost got kicked out of school because I was partying too much. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. They're kind of freshman year of college, it's like you get this newfound freedom after being like chained down in high school. And
Where was that? Where was that?
at the University of Cincinnati in
Got it.
Ohio. So I
Mhm.
was born and raised in Ohio. And so the aha moment was that I actually moved to Chicago with my aunt afterwards to kind of slow down, stay at home. The campus life wasn't treating me right. And my aunt at the age of 19 taught me how to meditate. And it's just started as
She taught you how to meditate, or you taught yourself?
she taught me how to meditate. And that it was as simple as just 5 minutes every morning before school, just deep breathing. And I had really bad test anxiety, and to where I knew I was smart, but I was like a B and C student in high school. So just very average.
Mhm.
And then when I started to practice meditation and deep breathing, immediately my sophomore year of college, I started to get straight A's just because I taught myself how to breathe. And that was really where I saw like the first kind of exposure and that aha moment, like you mentioned, of realizing that, I can control my inner state. And ultimately, my outer reality is going to be a manifestation of how I feel on the inside.
That's cool. And so you had one-on-one mindset training through your
Mhm.
aunt, you said,
Yes.
and then you started a daily practice.
Hmm.
What were some of the other new habits you formed?
I've always been into exercising. I mean, I started
Mhm.
lifting weights when I was 14, but it was much more of an ego thing in high school where I just wanted to live, but yeah, I just wanted to bench press and squat, and
Yeah.
that led to a bunch of injuries too. So I've always been very physically active, But I think when I started meditating, it opened my mind up to other possibilities more in the mental and the spiritual realm. So then I started to, I mean, definitely one thing I want to get back into, but I used to do a lot more in my early 20s, was writing poetry and really finding a creative outlet and a creative expression. And it wasn't just any poetry, but very uplifting poetry. Because, you know, I went through like a dark period in my life to where I had to like start to like channel positive stuff. And then also another thing was when I got my brain scanned for the first time in 2013, because I was suffering from like anxiety, depression, bipolar, addiction, and a whole slew of issues that like really led to a significant amount of problems for a number of years. And getting my brain scanned, it really showed me for the first time in my life that there isn't something wrong with me. It's just something wrong with the way my brain is functioning. And that's why I ended up dedicating my life to learning about the brain, got my bachelor's in neuropsychology, and like implemented the treatment program and got follow-up scans done in 2015. And all those areas that showed like all those unhealthy symptoms were like gone. And I was blown away. It's like, holy cow. I mean, I've been functioning this way my whole life. And my brain, all of a sudden, when you start to feed it these positive tools that we've talked about, it's able to reform itself and in a positive way. But it's a two-way street because it can also go negative. So it's really, really, like we talked about the parenting piece, but on an individual and a business level, really, really coming at it from a brain health perspective has created just new possibilities in terms of what I've been able to accomplish as an entrepreneur.
Well, congratulations, because doing that alone is amazing. So
Thank you.
regardless of your entrepreneurial enterprises, doing that alone in a
Mhm.
2-year period where I feel like I've done a similar thing in a couple year period. I
Mhm.
didn't have any brain scans. I wasn't diagnosed with anything. I knew something was wrong.
Right.
I had given myself a life disorder of I compressed
Mhm.
my life into a box and I couldn't live in that box anymore. So
Mhm.
you had mentioned a couple of things. Like, how do you still, two things, do you still have days where you're like, I just want to curl up on the couch and hide? And then what is that mindset? What is that overarching chatter in your mind that takes you out of that space to be productive and be healthy?
You know, I definitely do have those days where I feel like doing that, but I know when I've done that in the past, it's never given me what my mind has told me it's going to give me. Like
Yeah.
the mind kind of has this trick of telling you, like, you know, if you withdraw and you run away from the problem, it's going to create some sense of comfort. But the whole idea of a comfort zone, I've learned, is just an illusion. And I've actually learned that in those moments that they do come up, I really need to tune in and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? And I think that asking yourself that question and being open to receive, not like having some kind of like preconceived notions of what could be causing it, it opens up space to allow you to analyze that and do some inner work in terms of addressing whatever it is. Because if those thoughts are coming in your mind, there is some unhealthy kind of input that we've taken in or perhaps absorbed other people's opinions at some point that can be dealt with. Because all the thoughts that we have are merely imprints of our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is like a sponge to the world, to what people tell us. You know, it's like we wonder about dreams. Like a lot of the dreams we have are just like these different subconscious impressions we've had just kind of thrown together into a collage. And so the way that I'm able to get myself out of that today is just reminding myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and knowing that by me taking action now, it's going to help to give another person or 10 people or 20 people the courage to be able to take action through that. So I consider that like the mini battles, to where if I lose this mini battle and I curl up in a ball and say like, don't honor my commitments for the day, I'm shortchanging how I can help other people. And that's why it's no longer about me anymore today. It's about what I can do to serve the world. And I think when I put it like that, all of a sudden, like, you know, I'll get back and do what I need to do and just keep moving forward with balance, of course. Because there are some times where, like, you know, if you want to curl up on a ball for an hour, like that's okay. But
Yeah.
like for a whole entire day or for a week, then it starts to kind of become more depressive tendencies. And then that's where there's usually something deeper going on.
Yeah. And that illusion that that's actually going to make you feel better, um, is, I think for me, that's been like, oh, this doesn't work anymore. And maybe it probably never worked. But giving myself the space to realize that, like, okay, you know, feed yourself something that you need for comfort. You're seeking comfort right now. So
Mm-hmm.
feed that in some way that's not destructive. It's not going to hurt you really. Feed that and then move on.
Right.
Like, allow yourself to feel what's going on. Why are you freaked out? Why are you sad? Why are you overwhelmed? Feel that, acknowledge it, try to figure out what's that problem, and then move on and then tackle it. So for me, but again, when you're in that darker place, it's hard to see all this stuff. It doesn't just show up. It's just not there because you're in overwhelm and you just see the box that you've built for yourself. And you can't see past it. You know, there's a world out there. You see other people doing it, but you just can't see. And so that's one of the things I want to get into is this DIY model of health. Like, yeah, I'll read a book, I'll do it. You had support, you found other resources, someone helped you. So talk to me about how you're going to walk people through. You had mentioned you started a course.
A mindfulness program that takes a lot of the principles that I've learned through meditation and incorporates journaling as a way to be able to begin to analyze a lot of those negative thought patterns that I mentioned, and creates a systematic way to be able to go in and analyze those thoughts. And then we also incorporated artificial intelligence as a way to be able to drive the price point down and make it affordable and accessible for people. And, you know, I think that that's a piece. I'm not going to tell you it's the end all be all, because that I'd be lying to you. I think it's a very foundational piece, but I'm also a huge proponent of seeking help where you need help, and that there's no shame in asking for help. So I think having the structure of like the 12-week mindfulness program is great to lay the foundation, but ultimately it's up to us to be able to kind of hold ourselves and go, whether it's seeking a therapist or reaching out to some kind of life coach or an emotional coach or some kind of healer. Like if you're more on the spiritual side, like perhaps Reiki or sound healing or Ayurvedic medicine. I mean, there's so many tools out there, but I think ultimately we have to be in a place within ourselves where we're willing and ready to take action. And sadly for me, I wasn't willing to do that until I had a significant amount of pain. So a lot of people, you first off have to be in a place where you're willing to take action. And we say the whole DIY model, you have to, in the end of the day, do it yourself. You can go and see a doctor and pay $3,000 and get a bunch of supplements and get this whole series of things. But if you don't take those supplements and don't take action on those recommendations, you know, it ultimately doesn't work. I mean, you're still going to be, you have new awareness, but you got to take action on it. And that's where you can do it yourself, but seek out help from professionals to help you lay out a roadmap, because chances are most people don't know the stuff. Like they just don't. And like, you know, you and I have encountered and taken in more education through our own experience, but ultimately it's really, really up to us to seek out that knowledge and seek out that help.
What's the website for people to find out more about the 12-week course?
It's www.soulphysiolifestyle.com. And then on there, it has all the information about all the different services we provide. I mean, I have a full team of doctors and coaches that work for me, but I'm also more than happy to answer any questions, or if there's anybody out there that wants to work with me personally, then, you know, be more than happy to find a way to make that work.
Okay, great. Well, we'll put that in the comments and we'll put that into the video
Cool.
for everybody to have access to that link. So you know more than most. You did neuropsychology and you're into different things like neuroplasticity. So what's one insight? You know, I don't see myself going back to school to get another degree. I've got 2 degrees at this point. So what's an easy way to translate like the impact of new habits of neuroplasticity, where you can actually change the wiring in your brain like you did?
So it really embodies in like the tagline and kind of short mission statement for my business is train the brain to strive for gain. And what that means.
Break that down for me a little bit.
Yeah. So you have, first off, you train the brain.
Mm-hmm.
That in of itself is pretty self-explanatory, to where it's done by continuous repetitive action. And like they say, repetition is huge. And being able to create new pathways in the brain results from taking consistent action on a daily basis. That's not just like, I'm going to do it once a week. It's like, I'm going to do it every day. And that it has, I mean, they say like 21 days is typically what it takes to create a new habit. And then eventually, like it's going to start off very difficult, but the way you know that your brain has been able to get used to it is that, like, I'll use the example of exercise, that it's extremely hard to get in the habit of exercising. Once you're in the habit of exercising, you have a hard time not doing it. So that's when you know that your brain has become accustomed to doing it, is when you have a harder time not doing it than doing it. That's why it's like, it would take more energy to not work out than to work out. And that's when you know your body and your mind is kind of adjusted to that new thought pattern. So that's like the training the brain. And then the second part is to strive for gain. And what I mean by that is that the way I live my life is that every single day I look and see how I can improve different areas of my life. And so when you strive for gain, you're seeking to improve and constantly grow in all areas of life. And that sounds overwhelming, but once you develop the mindset of being able to look at everything, every obstacle as an opportunity for growth, as opposed to a burden, that's what puts you in a position where you embrace challenge, you embrace discomfort, you embrace fear, because you know that by moving through that, it's going to inevitably make you a strong person. And that's why when you train your brain to strive for gain, you're constantly seeking opportunities in every area of life, whether it's like, okay, you show up at the store and you may be anxious to go and talk to that cute girl and say you want to go and ask her for a number. That anxious feeling is all the more reason to do it. And knowing that, even if you get rejected, what do you do? There's plenty more fish in the sea.
Yeah.
So
It
that's,
reminds me of earlier you had mentioned like comfort and getting out of that comfort zone. I remember, I think it was 4 Hour Work Week with Tim Ferriss years ago. He would say he would go into a train station and lay down on the floor. And he would try these like crazy, and I'm not saying people should do that, but he would try these crazy human psychological challenges or experiments to see like what would happen if. And I kind of see it like you do. It's like, what would happen if I did this thing that scared me? Am I going to die? Am I going to? No, probably not. Not in our modern world. We're probably not going to die. We might feel a lot of emotional something, but what's on the other side of that is so much bigger than what might happen in that moment.
yeah.
That you break through some pattern. Like, I'm a big fan of just people breaking through fear barriers. I think fear has disabled us more than any other thing in the world. What we're afraid of just stops us from living a life. I was an adventure guide for years and watch people go through that process of, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. Do it. Hundreds of people have done it before you. And then to watch their human just emotion pouring out after they did that thing that they were afraid of. I love that. I would get back into guiding and doing adventure guiding just to get that rise and see people in that emotional state of going through that fear process and seeing what's on the other side. And then, who knows years later what they've done on top of that.
You find out that fear. So we analyze like the notion of that fear, like where that fear comes from. A lot of people don't know. They fear it, but they don't, like, we fear what we don't know. So let me clarify, like, that fear is simply a protective mechanism our brain uses. You may have heard of the fight or flight response. And that's literally like dating back to prehistoric times when cavemen would come out, and when they, like, your body is like, when you get in that stressed out state, your blood rushes to your extremities and you're in a place where you're ready to fight or flight. But in today's world, we don't need that level of survival. If you, like, you're at work and you're fearing, like, literally, like, your body is
Your boss
reacting.
might come over and say something to you and you're in a fight or flight mode. It's like, how did we get to that point? It's crazy.
Your boss isn't going to rip your head off like a tiger could have thousands of years ago. You may think that, but the fact that you're putting that much stress on your body,
Yeah.
really, like, that chronic stress over a long
The
period of
chronic
time,
stress. Yeah. Yeah.
it can lead to so many different problems. And that's where, like you mentioned, with the fear. So fear is a reaction of the nervous system perceiving threat to our well-being. So first off, like you said, you have to acknowledge you're not going to die. Your boss isn't going to eat your head off. Like, that's not going to happen. And
Yeah.
so it's not worth putting that stress on yourself, even if it's an unpleasant conversation. Go
Yeah.
into it with an opportunity to be able to be like, okay, what did I do wrong, and how can I do it better next time?
Yeah. And to be honest, some people in the world have real fear. There are people there's real abuse, there's real problems in the world. And those people that's a different thing that we're talking about. That is real fear. That is a protective mechanism that I don't know how to save those folks, because those folks are dealing with abuse and real life challenges where they might actually die. But that's a different response. What we're talking about is the modern, more first, second, and third world people who are in a normal everyday situation, feeling a fear that will not kill them, most likely, and yet it's stopping them from living fully. And they don't even maybe realize that, like, hey, I fear this, and I fear this, and I fear this. One of the coolest things that I learned about that fear response is there's actually 4. I've been saying there's 2. There's the freeze and the faint also. where you freeze and you can't move and you're paralyzed. And I think I went through that response at one point. And then the faint where you just, you just go subconscious. You just fall unconscious. One of the things I learned is that you sweat, because if you're being chased by an animal and you're wet and sweaty, it's harder for that animal to grab you. Like it is. And when I heard that, I was like, God, this is such an emotional, physiological response in the body to evade a predator. This is not built for stress in your work. This is a different response, and yet I'm sweating. It's like, wait a minute, why am I sweating when I'm going to talk to people I'm excited to go talk to on an event? So turning anxiety and excitement, mixing those two things, like, am I excited right now or am I anxious? Because the body responds the same. So it becomes like a mindset thing.
Right.
So we should do a whole second talk on neuroplasticity, and we will. So I just want to thank you for your time. Do you have any last parting wisdom for people as they're watching this?
Yeah, I just want to leave with the one point to kind of bring it home on the stress is, we talked about meditation and mindfulness, and that
Yeah.
meditation can ultimately be used as a tool to condition the nervous system to when you do get in that state of stress. Like I use the example of like the test anxiety in my own life, that learning to control my breath, that's the key to actually calming your body down. So deep breathing is an incredibly valuable tool. So the takeaway is learn us through deep breathing. And with that, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Cool. Thank you. I've learned some things today. Thank you for your time today. I'm
Wow.
excited to share your program with people. I think it's a really effective starting gateway point, even if you've been down the journey in different ways. It's a good place to start. And people, I always say, you just got to take a first step. And the first step can often be the hardest first step,
Mhm.
because once you're walking, you're going, you have momentum. It's that first step where you're still, and you've got to take that first leap. So thank you for offering something for people to take that first step at a point where most people can afford it to
Yeah,
get started.
absolutely. That's the goal. It's like we said, we're more than happy to help. Really enjoyed it, and looking forward to chatting again.
All right, great. So for all of you out there, we're zenhustlers.com. We'd like to create empowering content and media and resources to help people, primarily entrepreneurs, founders, and business owners who are dealing with a lot of the overwhelm, the stress, and the anxiety of trying to run a business, trying to have a life, and try to enjoy both, especially if you have family and relationships, so you can actually enjoy this one life that we're given, and you're not only in hustle mode, because there's a lot of folks out there that are telling you to hustle 24/7, 365, and that will either kill you or ruin parts of your life. So we really don't believe in that. We do believe in balance on the edge, and balance means whatever it means for you. So feel free to check out our website. We have resources for working at home, daily routines and habits, and then all the other experts that we love to share about. So check out zenhustlers.com. Thank you, Aneesh. Been great talking to you, and I look forward to talking again soon.
Thanks a lot, Jared. Been
All
fun.
right. Take care.
You too.